Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Daily Drive. My name is Mike, and we hang here for a few minutes each weekday just trying to get to know God a little better. And to do that, we've been walking through the Gospel of John, looking at the life of Jesus. Now, some of you know that I'm a pastor, and I teach somewhere almost every weekend. So I've got lots of different series and lots of different messages to prepare for. But this particular journey through John is just something I'm doing personally for my own soul. I told you that I wrote a life mission statement a long time ago, like way back in my 20s, that reads, I just want to look, love, and live like Jesus. And I got a long way to go, but I reason if that's my life goal, then I ought to study his life. So every new year, I just read and reread these books called the Gospels, or the good news about the love of Jesus. So I just thought, why not bring all y'all along for this journey through the Gospel of John? And we're in John chapter 5, and he recounts another amazing encounter that Jesus has with an unlikely person. Let me just read the first 9 verses today, and then we'll probably, spend a couple of days unpacking all this. This is how this chapter begins. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now, there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. But by the way, I got to stand there a few years ago. Really, really cool place. You can envision the way it might have looked with all kinds of people on these different elevated patios. You can probably Google a picture of it and see it for yourself. John goes on, verse 3. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, and the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, do you want to get well? Now, when I first read that story, I thought that the question that Jesus asked was a pretty obvious question, like, duh, been an invalid for 38 years, do I want to get well? But after years of my own stubborn refusal to change and working with all kinds of people who are living in denial, I've discovered that's a pretty insightful question. In fact, it's actually one of the most important questions we can ask ourselves. Now, we might be miserable, we might be in the grip of some kind of addiction, and we know we have a problem. We know that things are out of control, but the question remains, do you want to get well? Really? I don't know, maybe it's image management. We say, well, what do you mean, well? I'm okay. I'm fine. In fact, nobody's ever going to know I struggle with this. And below the surface, man, we're just drowning. Or maybe it's pride where we say, I can't show weakness. Reaching out is a sign of weakness. I can beat this thing on my own. Or maybe it's fear. As strange as it seems, some people fear change more than they fear the damage that the addiction or the hurt is doing to them. As miserable as they are, they would rather wear that habit like a comfortable pair of old shoes than to go through the challenge of breaking in a new pair and walk in a new direction. You see, it's not a dumb question. Do you want to get well? Now, I've got some good news for you. If you want to get well, really get well, the one who's asking that question, he's the right one to come to, because he has the power and the desire to go to work in your life. My good friend Keith was in bondage to all kinds of addiction, and he writes this in his book called Just Breathe. He says, I can't remember the exact moment that I finally decided that I did want to get well. I think it was somewhere between my chapped lip, white powder on my shirt, cocaine bender trip to Vegas, and that 3-block drive to tell my sponsor everything I'd ever done. And somewhere in there, by the grace of God, I was able to drop the fear and finally humble myself to the loving touch of Jesus, and he started healing me. I also got into a community of fellow strugglers where I encountered honest, loving people and a loving God who met me right where I was. Still, I never would have made it to that place without finally admitting that on my own, I'm a broken, shattered mess, and I needed his help to get well. So, we're about a month into this new year. Let me ask you, what is it that still keeps you from walking free? What do you struggle with? Is it anxiety, worry, panic? Is it anger, bitterness, abuse, gambling, alcohol, drugs, pornography, sexual addiction, bigotry, cynicism, lying, grief, divorce, criticism, perfectionism, procrastination, maybe codependency? Are you a control freak, a workaholic? Is your pace out of control? Do you overspend, overeat, undereat, struggle with anorexia, bulimia? Do you have relationship wounds that have left you with trust issues? Do you ever know that something is wrong, but you just do it anyway? You ever find it hard to go to sleep? Do you also find it hard to get out of bed? Do you struggle with depression? Do you battle with envy, contentment, insecurity? You got a memory that haunts you? Got some unresolved guilt that paralyzes you? If you answer yes to any of those questions, welcome to the human race. We all need to get well in some way. So Jesus' question here is relevant for all of us. So let me just leave you with that question today, and we'll pick up the story tomorrow. But just know that your answer to that question may change the course of your life. The only thing greater than the power of God is His desire to help you, love you, heal you, and transform you. So the correct response to the question is yes, I want to get well. He's been waiting for your honest answer. See you back tomorrow.